Okay. It takes 6 hours to drive from San Francisco to Los Angeles. If you drive a fuel-efficient car that gets around 26 miles to the gallon, then maybe you can make the trip with only 1 tank of gas, costing you around $40. $40 is cheap, but the carbon gases released from burning that fuel are costly to the environment. California's answer to this commuter problem is to build the high-speed train system that will run through cities such as San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Diego, and many more. Completing the high-speed train project in California will produce significant advantages for our state. These advantages are that the high-speed train will provide necessary environmental improvements throughout our state, it will create jobs to boost the economy, and will also aid cities and individual travelers. Starting with my first point, that the high-speed train will provide necessary environmental improvements for our state, one reason for this is that the train will run on electricity from renewable power sources like the sun and wind, dropping air pollution and smog levels throughout our state. The more people that decide to travel by the high-speed rail system, the less congested our freeways and airports will be. And according to the California High-Speed Rail Authority, California will emit 12 billion pounds less greenhouse gases per year from this new train. Another thing to think about is that building more miles of highway, more airports, and more steam engine railroad tracks is less economically and environmentally efficient than only using materials to build the high-speed train system. Speaking of the economy brings me to my next point. Obviously, the high-speed railroad will cost money, which hurts California's economy, but it will also create jobs to boost our economic state. Companies needed to supply the materials will be provided with business. Anything from bolts that hold the tracks together to computers where day-to-day customers will purchase tickets all need to be bought. Workers will be required to build the railways. Another statistic from the California High-Speed Rail Authority states that 600,000 jobs will be required for construction alone, an estimated 100,000 construction jobs a year. Workers will also be needed to work on the trains. 450,000 permanent jobs will stem from a need for employees to work on and maintain the railroad system. My final point is that the high-speed train will aid Californians from entire cities to each individual traveler. The high-speed train is safer than traveling in a car and is more than twice as fast. The train is able to travel from San Francisco to LA in 2 hours and 40 minutes. As of now, there are also 21 destinations that are planned to be built across California. The cities that these destinations are located in will experience a boost in their economy because now that this high-speed train stops in their city, it has become an easily accessible location to attract tourists for sleeping, eating, and purchasing gifts. To reiterate, the high-speed train system will be more environmentally sound than any other form of transportation in California today. It will create over 1 million jobs to boost California's economy. And finally, it is highly beneficial not only to the people using the train, but also to each city where the high-speed train stops. Thank you for your time.
All right, the organizational stuff is pretty solid. You've got a clear statement of the proposition. I think you want to highlight it a little more and indicate that it is, in fact, the proposition. But if people listening closely, they'll get that, because immediately following are the secondary claims, and you previewed them very clearly. You also did a good job signposting those claims as you went through the speech. So organizationally, everything is fine. I think your proof on the individual points is a little underwhelming on the first point and especially on the third point. It's a little bit stronger on the middle point. On the impact on global gas, greenhouse gases in the environment and all those kinds of things, there's a claim that these high-speed rail trains will run on sun and wind power. That's a complete assertion. There's no explanation about the likelihood of that occurring within the time that the trains are being built. And I think that you need to show that that's a likely outcome as opposed to it's going to run on the traditional sources that generate electricity, which, by the way, are going to be producing greenhouse gases as well. The argument, I think the stronger argument to make on this particular point is the reduction based on the number of trips. But what reason do we have to believe that the high-speed train is going to replace people using their automobiles to get from point A to point B? Ridership you have to have some kind of idea about ridership projections. You have to show that people would be changing their patterns of commuting from one place to the other. I don't know that personally, the train could exist for all kinds of reasons. It'd be relatively cheap. If I'm driving to Northern California, I want to have my car when I get up there. So why is it that I would want to take the train, especially if I'm going to have to take a taxi or a bus at the end point anyway? So that's one of those things that there is some question about what the ridership is going to be, and I think that you need to address that. There are good arguments that say that it's going to increase, but you haven't really presented any of that. On the second point, you've got better claims about the employment based on the statistics that you presented. I think that we talked about this a little bit. Those statistics, of course, are coming from the projections of the high-speed rail advisory group, so they're pretty rosy, and I think that you need to be able to back them up a little bit. Some independent evaluation. Do we have comparisons to other places that use the high-speed rails that have produced those results? I think that that would strengthen the argument. On your third point, it's mostly assertion also. I think that there are good reasons that you're presenting, but I'm not sure that that necessarily necessitates the outcome that you're talking about. The fact that the train stops at 21 stops along the way, but somebody is getting on in San Diego and going to San Francisco, they're not going to be getting on and off the train at 20 stops, so I'm not exactly sure how it's going to benefit them economically in those locations. Maybe some of them are going to benefit because it's going to be easier for them to have connection to transportation and major hubs or transportation centers. But again, you're going to need some proof on that. The presentation is generally effective, but you got a lot of time left, and so this is why I think you need to really have a lot more data in the argument than you do. Structure's good, the claim is clear, you've got the right idea on all these points. I just thought that the proof was a little bit thin. All right, thank you.